America's most popular dog reveals everything wrong with people today. The French Bulldog recently took over the #1 spot as the AKC's most popular dog. It knocked off the Labrador, which held the #1 spot longer than any other breed because it was the perfect family dog. But the Frenchie's rise shows what people actually value in dogs these days, and it's not good. In this video, we'll go through the most popular breeds of the last 100 years and share what that said about the culture at the time, where they rank now, and what that means about people today. Let's start in 1925, where the most popular breed was the German Shepherd. American soldiers returning from World War I brought back stories of these brave, intelligent dogs used by the German military. But what really launched their popularity wasn't military tales. Hollywood had just discovered the power of the silver screen, and two German shepherds named Rin Tin Tin and Strongheart became massive box office stars in silent films during the 1920s. Rin Tin Tin alone starred in 27 Hollywood films and reportedly received over 10,000 fan letters each week. This wasn't just entertainment, it was a cultural phenomenon that created a heroic image for the breed during America's first real taste of mass media influence. The timing was perfect. Post-war America was experiencing booming prosperity and urbanization, and people were hungry for heroes they could relate to. These dogs represented loyalty, courage, and intelligence at a time when the country was defining its new identity as a world power. But here's what's most incredible about these dogs. German Shepherds still rank #4 today, 100 years later. That kind of staying power is almost unheard of in a world where trends change rapidly. It shows that genuine intelligence, unwavering loyalty, and a range of capabilities transcend cultural shifts and remain consistently appealing to people across generations. But while German Shepherds were conquering Hollywood, a very different kind of dog was about to take center stage for reasons no one saw coming. Enter the Boston Terrier, which was #1 from about 1929 to 1935. You might look at this compact, tuxedo-wearing little dog and wonder how it could possibly dethrone the mighty German Shepherd. The answer lies in one of America's darkest economic periods and shows us just how quickly priorities can shift when survival is at stake. When the Great Depression hit in 1929, everything changed overnight. Stock markets crashed, banks failed, and millions of Americans found themselves unemployed and homeless. Families who had lived comfortably in spacious homes were suddenly crowding into small urban apartments, boarding houses, or even living with relatives. That large, active German Shepherd that seemed so appealing during the Roaring '20s became an expensive liability when people were struggling to feed themselves. The Boston Terrier was the perfect choice for Depression-era America, partly because they were cheaper to maintain. They ate less food, needed less space, and required fewer resources overall. But here's what's beautiful about this story. Their cheerful, amusing personalities provided desperately needed emotional support during widespread despair and uncertainty. When everything else in life felt heavy and hopeless, these little American gentlemen brought laughter and companionship into homes where both were in short supply. The breed's American origins also mattered during this period of national struggle. The Boston Terrier was the first dog breed developed entirely within the United States, right there in Boston, Massachusetts, during a time when Americans were questioning their place in the world and dealing with economic humiliation. Having a true American dog felt symbolically important. Yet here's what's puzzling about their current status. Boston Terriers have dropped to #23 today. They seem to have just fallen out of fashion and replaced by another flat-faced breed we'll discuss later. This dramatic fall suggests that Americans have moved away from practical considerations and toward other priorities that might surprise you. As America began its slow recovery from the Depression and families started yearning for something beautiful and comforting in their lives, the Cocker Spaniel swooped in and became #1 from 1936 to 1952. People fell in love with those soulful, expressive eyes and that gorgeous flowing coat. But there's much more to this story than just good looks. It's about a nation trying to heal itself through beauty and gentleness. The Cocker Spaniel's popularity exploded during the post-war suburban boom when families were moving into brand new tract houses and wanted that perfect, gentle dog to complete their vision of domestic bliss. The breed represented everything Americans wanted their new suburban life to be: beautiful, refined, and family-friendly. Then Disney released Lady and the Tramp in 1955, with Lady being inspired by a Cocker Spaniel, and that cemented their status as America's sweetheart dog. We'll talk about where they rank today a little later, because they're actually the only breed in the last 100 years to rank number 1 for 2 separate terms. But first, let's talk another small, cute hunting dog that stole our hearts thanks to one of the most popular cartoons ever. Just as families were settling into their new suburban lives and trying to capture that perfect 1950s ideal, along came a breed that seemed designed specifically for America's post-war optimism. The Beagle was number 1 from 1953 to 1959, and the timing reveals something fascinating about how Americans saw themselves during this golden age of prosperity. The post-war economic boom was creating rapid suburban growth, and families were looking for that quintessential kid-friendly dog to complete their white picket fence dream. Beagles seemed ideal. They were cheerful, the right size for families, and relatively low maintenance compared to some other breeds. And just like the German Shepherd, right before the Beagle topped the charts, it stole our hearts through media. The world's most famous Beagle, Snoopy, made his debut in the Peanuts comic strip in 1950. Snoopy became a cultural icon who appeared in newspapers across America every single day, reinforcing the image of Beagles as lovable, imaginative, and perfectly suited to family life. The comic strip reached millions of readers daily, creating a kind of constant, gentle advertising for the breed that no marketing campaign could have matched. Today, Beagles rank number 7, which is still impressive after all these decades. However, their vocal nature and tendency to follow their nose wherever it leads can be challenging for modern dog owners who may live in an apartment, have neighbors close by, or just want a little more peace and quiet. While Beagles were charming suburban families with their wholesome appeal, a breed that would dominate for over 2 decades was about to make its move. And it wasn't what you'd expect from looking at their fancy, perfectly groomed appearance. But first, if you love dogs as much as we do, subscribe to Doggy Digs so you never miss out on any of our future doggy videos. Next came the Poodle, and it ruled from 1960 to 1982, the longest single reign at the time. And their success reveals something fascinating about America's changing self-image during the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s and 70s. Most people see a perfectly groomed standard poodle at a dog show and think luxury dog. But this might surprise you. They were originally bred as rugged water-retrieving dogs for hunters in Germany. Those fancy haircuts actually served a practical purpose. The pom-poms of hair were left over joints and vital organs to keep them warm in cold water, while the rest was shaved to reduce drag while swimming. The poodle's fancy image perfectly matched the glamour and style of the 1960s and 70s. This was an era when Americans were becoming more sophisticated, traveling internationally, and becoming interested in European culture and fashion. They wanted dogs that reflected this. The poodle, with its French name and elegant appearance, seemed to embody everything Americans aspired to be. But there were practical reasons, too, that reveal changing American lifestyles. Their non-shedding coat was perfect for keeping new, modern homes clean. As more women entered the workforce and families became busier, the idea of a beautiful dog that didn't leave hair all over the furniture became incredibly appealing. The fact that poodles came in 3 sizes, standard, miniature, and toy, meant there was literally a poodle for every lifestyle, from city apartments to suburban homes. Their exceptional intelligence also appealed to people who were becoming more interested in dog training and competitive dog sports. This was the era when formal obedience training became popular among pet owners, not just professional handlers. Poodles excelled at this, which reinforced their image as the thinking person's dog. Today, poodles rank number 5, which is a reflection of how much people value intelligent, non-shedding dogs. But in a surprising twist that shows just how unpredictable dog popularity can be, the Cocker Spaniel made an unexpected comeback from 1983 to 1990. That's right, they managed to reclaim the top spot after being dethroned decades earlier, something that had never happened in AKC history. This second reign happened during the Reagan era's emphasis on traditional American values, and families were drawn back to this classic, beautiful breed that represented a simpler, more innocent time. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. This renewed fame led to devastating consequences. Cocker Spaniels suffered massive, irresponsible overbreeding by people looking to make quick money. When a breed becomes the most popular in America, puppy mills and irresponsible breeders often rush to meet that demand, usually at the expense of the dog's health, temperament, and welfare. The consequences were severe and long-lasting. Many Cocker Spaniels from this period developed serious health problems, including eye diseases, heart conditions, and neurological issues. Even worse, some lines developed aggressive tendencies that were completely contrary to the breed's naturally sweet disposition. Families who bought Cocker Spaniels from irresponsible breeders expected gentle, family-friendly dogs, but sometimes ended up with dogs that had serious behavioral problems. This is part of the reason why Cocker Spaniels have plummeted to number 32 today, the biggest fall from grace of any former number 1 breed. The decline isn't just about the overbreeding legacy, though. Cocker Spaniels are high-maintenance dogs that don't fit as well with modern lifestyles. Their beautiful flowing coats require professional grooming every 6 to 8 weeks and daily brushing to prevent matting. Their floppy ears, while adorable, are prone to infections that require regular cleaning and veterinary attention. Modern dog owners, who often work long hours and have busy schedules, typically prefer easier-to-maintain breeds that don't require such intensive care. Additionally, the rise of doodle crosses has captured much of the market that Cocker Spaniels once dominated. These newer crosses offer the appeal of a friendly, family-oriented dog without the grooming challenges that Cocker Spaniels present. After the Cocker Spaniel's second reign and dramatic fall, America was ready for something different. The Labrador Retriever took over in 1991 and held the number 1 spot for an incredible 31 consecutive years, the longest continuous reign of any breed in AKC history. Labs became synonymous with the ideal American family dog, and for good reason. They're exceptionally friendly, eager to please, and outgoing in a way that makes them perfect for families with children. But what's remarkable is their versatility. They excel as hunting dogs for serious sportsmen, as service animals for people with disabilities, as therapy dogs in hospitals and schools, and as beloved family pets in suburban backyards. This adaptability meant they appealed to almost every segment of American dog owners. The timing of their rise tells us everything about American culture in the 1990s and 2000s. This was an era that emphasized active, family-oriented lifestyles. The soccer mom became a cultural archetype. Families spent weekends at youth sports events, and outdoor activities like hiking and camping gained popularity. Labs were the perfect companions for all of these activities. They loved kids, enjoyed exercise, and were reliable and predictable in their behavior. Labs were constantly featured in media and advertising as the quintessential American family dog, which reinforced their status with each generation. Many movies that needed a family dog seemed to feature some color of lab. Every commercial selling family-oriented products showed labs playing with children in perfect suburban settings. This created a feedback loop that made labs seem like the natural, obvious choice for American families. But here's what's particularly interesting about their 31-year reign. It coincided with a period of relative stability in American family structure. The 1990s and 2000s were decades when traditional nuclear families were still the dominant household type, when suburban living was at its peak, and when families had both the space and time for a larger active dog. Their current number 2 ranking is interesting because they're not less popular due to any problems with the breed itself. Labs are still excellent family dogs with wonderful temperaments. They're number 2 because society has fundamentally changed in ways that affect dog ownership patterns. After 3 decades of Labrador dominance, the breed that finally knocked them off their throne represents one of the most dramatic cultural shifts in modern American history, and their rise tells a story that goes far beyond just changing dog preferences. The French Bulldog took over in 2022 and continues to reign today, but their ascent reveals fundamental changes in how Americans live, work, and relate to their pets. French Bulldogs, or Frenchies as they're affectionately called, are adored for their playful, comical personalities packed into compact, city-friendly bodies. But here's a statistic that's almost hard to believe. French Bulldog registrations increased by over 1,000% from 2012 to 2022, according to the AKC. Their rise reflects massive societal shifts that would have been unimaginable to Americans choosing beagles for their suburban backyards in the 1950s. For one, we're now a predominantly urban nation, with more Americans living in cities and apartments than ever before. Unlike labs, which need space to run and regular exercise, Frenchies are perfectly content with apartment life and require minimal exercise. A short walk around the block satisfies their physical needs, making them ideal for busy urban professionals. But it's not only living space that's changed. While the lab is the perfect family dog, marriage and birth rates are both declining, so there's not as much need for a family dog, which has allowed space for the Frenchie to take over. And on top of that, what really supercharged their popularity was the rise of social media, particularly Instagram and TikTok. Those distinctive bat ears and expressive faces made them perfect subjects for viral videos and images. Their flat faces give them almost human-like expressions that photograph beautifully and translate perfectly to social media posts. In an era where people document their lives online, having a photogenic dog became as important as having a well-behaved one. But just like the Cocker Spaniel's rise in popularity led to problems for the breed, so has the Frenchies. People love them for their big, adorable heads and tiny size. But the combination of big heads and narrow hips has led to Frenchie mamas needing a C-section to give birth way more than most other breeds. And this is our fault for selectively breeding them for these proportions. On top of that, just like many other popular breeds, many irresponsible backyard breeders are capitalizing on the demand and producing as many puppies as they can without regard to health or temperament. In choosing a dog bred more for Instagram likes than health or function, we've revealed our transformation into a society where looks matter more than family and well-being. But Frenchies aren't the only breed we're slowly destroying for selfish reasons. Watch this video next about how humans are ruining dogs to see all of the controversial things we're doing to them.